Right, basically with carpentry and joinery tools you've got your marking out tools and your cutting tools and fixing tools. So first of all I'll talk a little bit about the marking out tools. You always start off with a basic tape measure. You can get the tape measures from up to 2 metres up to 10 metres in length, all different sizes. You always have metric on one side, inches on the other side, which is imperial and metric. You'll find on a tape measure as well, the end of the tape always has a little bit of movement, and the reason for that is if you're measuring externally, it hooks on the end and it moves to the end of the tape, but if you wanted to measure something, an internal measurement, the tape pushes over to measure an internal measurement. And the reason why it moves the thickness of the metal on the end. If that didn't move, you wouldn't get an accurate measurement with a tape. So that's a tape measure which slides in and out. You can also have a folding ruler for measuring for different sizes, or you can have a steel ruler for measuring sizes as well. Moving on to the basic tri-square. Basically it's just a 90 degrees square, simple piece of equipment, and all you do is push it against the timber, and it's for marking a square line 90 degrees all the way around the timber like so. So that's one of the most common things you can have in a toolbox. It's important for a carpenter to always have things square, because once you start going off slightly out of square, it throws everything out. So it's very important to keep things to be kept square. Next type of square, this one here, is what we call a roofing square. So if a carpenter's working on a roof, they'll use a roofing square, and basically if he's working with the roof at 30 degrees, he can set the roofing square to 30 degrees, so when he's doing the plumb cut on the timber, he can mark it to the angle where he needs to be. It also gives you the C cuts on the opposite side. So again, that's another really helpful piece of kit. The next one is basic. It's a very similar to the roofing square, what we call a sliding bevel. And what the sliding bevel is, it's basically a square where you can set it at 90 degrees and you can set it at any angle, and it moves to different angles. So you can set that to various different angles. So if you're working on a roof, or if you're working in a bay window, you could push down in the corner of a bay window to get the angle, so you know what angles you're going to fit the skirting board to. So that's a sliding bevel. Next one, now this is the most common square carpenter would carry in his toolkit, because basically it's what you call a combination square. You can use it for 90 degrees, and also on the other side you can use it for 45 degrees. So you can mark 90 degrees and 45 degrees, and also you can adjust it to whatever size it needs to be. So you could set it to 20 mil, because it's like a tape measure. It's got the millimetres on one side, so you can set it to 20 millimetres and mark a parallel line on a piece of timber like so. So that's a really versatile tool marking gauge, combination gauge, sorry. So that's the marking out tools. Next, you can also call as a marking out tool is the spirit level. And the spirit level is basically, it's a tool what sets something either perfectly level or perfectly plumb. All it's got on the ends and in the middle, it's got a liquid in with a bubble in. And when you get the bubble set exactly in the middle, you know it's plumb. And you normally have a bubble on the bottom and a bubble on the top. And you also have a bubble on the side for setting things level. The reason why it's called a spirit level is because basically if that liquid was just water and you're using it on a really cold day, it would end up freezing. So what they do is they put alcohol is the liquid what's inside of the spirit level, hence the word spirit level. Now we're going to talk about different types of saws. The most common saw for a carpenter is the hand saw, or panel saw, what it used to be known as. Years ago, joiners would carry 3 different types of saws and they would sharpen them at the end of the week, but now we just have one saw, which is like a combination of all 3. It's got quite big teeth on it for cutting big sections of timber. You can cut sheet material with it, cut plasterboard, MDF, chipboard, various different types of material. And you'll find all of the teeth are hardened on the edge so that the sharpness lasts a bit longer. And when you finish with this type of saw, basically it's just disposed of into a sharps box and it's replaced with a new one. So when a joiner is finished with it, he just puts it to one side and buys a new saw. Years ago, the joiner used to, at the end of each week, used to have to get a saw file and sharpen his saw, but that's not done now. It's basically we live in a disposable world at the minute. And the saws just gets disposed of and recycled, and we buy a new one. Next one is the tenon saw. Very, very similar teeth to the hand saw, but as you can see, the teeth on the tenon saw, they're a lot smaller and a lot closer together than what they are on the hand saw. So you can get a lot finer cut with a tenon saw. You'll find the blade on a tenon saw is sturdy, because you can see the hand saw that can be moved around, but the tenon saw is solid. So you can get a lot more finer cut and a lot more accurate with a tenon saw. But you'll find, because it's got a ridge section through the top, it's a lot more sturdy. Plus it means you can only cut sort of sections of timber about this deep. Next one is the coping saw, and basically the coping saw is a bit like a hacksaw, but it's got a very, very fine blade. And what you use with a coping saw is if you've got curves to cut, or if you're cutting a scribe around a piece of skirting board, you use a coping saw. So that cuts to different angles, different bevels and different curves. What you can do is you can slacken the handle off and you can turn the blade around. So for instance, if you're cutting out a section for a pipe box and you want to cut out a notch for a pipe, you'd use the coping saw to cut around for the pipe. Very, very handy tool, that. So that's the different saws I use in carpentry. Next one, this is what very, very common tool for carpenters. You'll find a site carpenter has a claw hammer. Most site carpenters, they have a tool belt with a pouch in the front, and they'll have what you call a frog on the side, and they'll drop the hammer into the side, and they'll carry the hammer around with them all the time, because basically when they're using the hammer, they use it for knocking in nails, pulling out nails, they use it with chisel work, knocking frames over, loads and loads of different things. The reason, when you're using a hammer, basically they're using it for knocking in nails. So when the nail's in, the reason why the hammer has a claw on the side, so the claw is used to take a nail out. So it's used for putting nails in and taking them out, and loads of other different things. Next one is the wooden mallet. This is more so for a joiner in a workshop would use a wooden mallet. And the main reason, the main purpose for a wooden mallet is for using it with the chisel. Now, as you can see, the head on the mallet compared to the head of a hammer is a lot bigger. So you use the wooden mallet for hitting the chisel with, because if you're using the hammer, you would slip off and hit your hand. So using the mallet, you've got a lot less chance of hitting your hand. Also, you can do some damage by using the hammer with the chisel. So that's the mallet and the hammer. Next is the chisels. I'll just go through a few of the few basic chisels what carpenters and joiners use. First of all, is the most common one is the bevel edge chisel. As you can see, the sides of the chisel are sloped down, and this is the very, very versatile chisel. It's used for paring work, chopping work with so if you're using the mallet, use the mallet for hitting it on the chisel, or you can use it for paring work when you're taking a fine amount off with the chisel. Always remember, when you're using the chisel, always have both hands this side of the cutting edge. So always remember, when you're using it with a mallet or just doing paring work, always have both edges, both hands this side, because as soon as you put one hand that side of the chisel, if you slip off, you'll end up cutting yourself. So safety tip, always remember both hands this side of the cutting edge. So that's the bevel edge chisel, the one with the sides sloped down. These range from 6mm all the way up to 32mm in width, and they're all about the same length. Next one is the mortise chisel. The mortise chisel is basically the same as the bevel edge chisel, but the sides are square, meaning it's a lot stronger chisel. The reason is for chopping out mortise holes, so it needs to be a lot stronger than the bevel edge chisel for chopping in mortise holes. Next one is basically, as you can see, it's a chisel what's got a curved edge on it, and this is what you call a gouge. And this is for taking out curved work. You can get inner and outer gouges, and that's for if you've got an inner hole to chop out or an outer hole, depending on what sort of gouge you're doing. So that's basically, it's just a chisel that's curved. So that's the 3 basic chisels. Next, we've got the hand planes. You find a lot of carpenters now, they have what you call electric power plane in the tool bag. So, but you'll always find they'll also have a handheld plane, because basically you'll never get a finish on a piece of timber like you would with a plane. This is what you call a jack plane. It's the biggest of the planes. Years ago, all carpenters used to carry a jack plane in the toolbox, but now I would say the majority of them have a smoothing plane or a block plane. Reason being because it's the size of it. It's very, very large. And what we use it for, say for instance, if you're planing a door edge or a long piece of timber, you use the jack plane for planing the timber up. With it having such a long base, it stops the timber from getting a wavy edge effect. So it keeps it nice and flat. So that's the jack plane. Next one is the smoothing plane. Basically it's the same as the jack plane, but the base isn't as long. And this is what you'd use for cleaning a frame up, taking a small amount off the edge of a door, and basically you get a nice, very fine finish on the edge of the timber with a smoothing plane. Next one down is the block plane. It's the same as the smoothing plane, again it's smaller. And this is what you use for fitting joints, fitting a mitre on a piece of skirting board, or fitting a mitre on a piece of architrave. And a lot of site joiners now, that's all they carry in the toolbox, because they'll have electric planer and a block plane. Block plane, you can use it with one hand for taking off an arras off. If you want to take an arras off a piece of timber, which is the small corner, if you want to plane off the end grain, you use a block plane. So that's a very, very versatile tool. And if you're carrying a tool bag around with you all day and you're carrying a big jack plane with it, and you've got all these planes in your bag, it's going to be quite heavy. So another reason why a lot of joiners have switched to the block plane, because of the size, they're nice and light in the tool bag, so you're not carrying as many tools around. Last one is the shoulder plane. So think of the shoulder, that's a shoulder plane. The reason why it's called a shoulder plane is because the blade on the shoulder plane goes all the way at the edge of the base of the plane. As you can see on the smoothing plane, it stops about 5 mil in from the end, but the shoulder plane goes all the way at the edge. And the reason for that is, if you're planing a shoulder on a joint, you can get right in the corner, get a nice crisp corner in it.